Welcome back, gearheads. These cars didn't flex with fins or flaunt flashy badges. They didn't need flames on the fenders or hood scoops to prove a point. But behind the modest styling and mid-century charm, raw, underrated muscle. From unsuspecting sedans to luxury coupes with hidden bite, these are 12 unknown sleeper cars of the 1950s. Number 12, 1956 Lincoln Premier. You wouldn't peg a Lincoln Premier as a performance car. Too big, too elegant, too presidential. But in 1956, Lincoln stuffed something serious under the hood of this luxury cruiser. It came with a 368 cubic inch Y-block V8, churning out 285 horsepower. Plenty to hustle this heavyweight down the highway with surprising urgency. Despite weighing over 4,300 pounds, the Premier could still do 0 to 60 in just over 10 seconds, which was impressive for a car aimed more at diplomats than drag racers. Inside, it had plush leather, power everything, and enough chrome to blind the sun. On the outside, it looked like it was built to glide, not race. But make no mistake, this thing could move. The Y-block engine wasn't just big, it was durable and smooth, designed for effortless torque delivery. Lincoln engineers paired it with a turbo-drive automatic transmission, and it delivered silky shifts whether you were cruising at 30 or pushing past 90. Underneath, the Premier featured coil springs up front and a live rear axle, offering a cushy ride that soaked up bumps but didn't mind a little speed. It was also one of the most luxurious cars of its day, with power seats, power windows, and even a push-button lubrication system for chassis fittings. That's right, you didn't even have to get your hands dirty to maintain it. And yet the Premier stayed under the radar. It wasn't flashy in the performance sense. No racing stripes, no performance badges. Just a big, quiet, comfortable machine that could outrun smaller cars while making it look effortless. For those in the know, it was a perfect balance of brute strength and boardroom class. The Lincoln Premier wasn't marketed as a muscle car. It was all about comfort, presence, and prestige. But drivers who knew how to push it found out just how much that big Y-block could deliver. It was a luxury barge with an unexpected bite. Now, if you think a Lincoln was too big to be quick, the next car is even older. Yet it helped invent the whole idea of a high-powered sleeper. Number 11, 1950 Oldsmobile 88 Rocket. The post-war years were all about innovation, and Oldsmobile wasn't playing around. In 1950, they dropped the Rocket V8 into a lightweight body and unknowingly started the muscle car playbook decades early. The Rocket 88 featured a 303 cubic inch overhead valve V8 that made 135 horsepower, a big deal when most cars were still running flathead sixes. Add in a relatively light body and a hydromatic transmission, and you had a car that could hit 0 to 60 in around 12 seconds, faster than most of its peers. On paper, it was just a family car. In reality, it was terrorizing early drag strips and even dominating NASCAR in its class. There were no stripes, no spoilers, and no sport trim. Just clean lines, a wide grille, and that subtle rocket badge on the fender. People didn't expect it to be quick until it left them behind. It became the go-to car for hot rodders and moonshiners alike. Its overhead valve V8 wasn't just powerful, it was revolutionary, marking a major shift in American engine design. The Rocket 88 won 10 out of 19 NASCAR Grand National races in 1950, cementing its legacy on the track. It was fast, affordable, and easy to modify. Everything a future muscle car would be. The Rocket 88 was a quiet powerhouse and one of the original sleeper blueprints. But if that one made noise in the early 50s, our next pick kept things subtle all the way into the space age era with a look that screamed sci-fi and a V8 that made sure it wasn't just for show. Number 10, 1957 Mercury Turnpike Cruiser. With a name like Turnpike Cruiser, you'd think Mercury was building a highway queen, and visually they were. Tail fins, a breezeway rear window, push-button everything. It was more spaceship than speed demon. But under all that flash lived some serious torque. Power came from a 368 cubic inch V8 borrowed from Lincoln, pumping out 290 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque. Despite its size and flair, the Turnpike Cruiser could move with authority. 0 to 60 happened in under 10 seconds, and it had no problem cruising past the posted speed limits with ease. The ride was soft, the steering was effortless, and the interior was pure 50s luxury. But the engine? It had muscle car grunt before muscle cars existed. The Turnpike Cruiser wasn't just a rolling showcase of late 50s technology. It was Mercury's way of saying they could do luxury and performance in the same package. It featured innovations like a trip computer, a push-button transmission selector called keyboard control, and a unique rear window that could drop down for extra airflow. Even the steering wheel was space-age, a deep dish design with a clear plastic center. It felt like something out of the Jetsons, but it didn't just look the part. It had the guts to back it up. Its long wheelbase and wide stance made it stable at speed, and on open highways, it could float along at 80 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. What's wild is that most people never explored its performance potential. They were too busy admiring the gadgets and trim. But for the few who did, the payoff was clear. Most buyers saw the Turnpike Cruiser as a status symbol, not a street weapon. But in the right hands, it was both. And thanks to its rarity today, most people forget just how potent it really was. All that chrome might distract you, but the power was always there. And speaking of power hiding in plain sight, the next car on the list looked like a mild-mannered Buick, but had the heart of a hot rod. Number 9, 1959, Pontiac Catalina with Tri-Power 389. In 1959, the Catalina wasn't a flashy coupe or a hot rod halo car. It was a full-size Pontiac that blended into suburban driveways. But Pontiac had something cooking under the hood that most folks never saw coming. Hidden beneath that clean, chrome-heavy design was the optional 389 cubic inch V8 equipped with Tri-Power, 3 two-barrel carburetors, pushing out up to 345 horsepower. That's the same setup that would later make the GTO famous. But here, it was tucked quietly into a big-bodied family car. Paired with a 4-speed manual and Pontiac's improved handling package, the Catalina could scoot. Quarter-mile times hovered around the low 15s, which was serious for a full-size cruiser in the 50s. The Catalina didn't scream performance, it whispered it. It looked more like a date-night car than a street warrior. But if you ordered it right, it could leave sportier coupes in the dust. The Tri-Power setup delivered smooth power through the rev range, and the big V8 had no problem shoving all that steel down the strip. Inside, bench seats, AM radio, nothing to tip you off. But out back, twin pipes gave a small hint. This one was different. The 1959 Catalina with the Tri-Power 389 might not have been the face of the muscle car era, but it absolutely laid the groundwork. And while Pontiac's future would be full of bold GTOs and Trans Ams, this was one of their first true sleepers. Pontiac packed big power into a big body. But what happens when you shrink the body and keep the power? The next car shows you exactly what that looks like. Number 8, 1953 Buick Skylark. They called it the banker's hot rod, and once you look at the numbers, it's easy to see why. The 1953 Buick Skylark combined Buick's smallest, lightest body with its biggest, most powerful engine. And the result was way quicker than anyone expected. Under the hood sat a 322 cubic inch nailhead V8, making 188 horsepower. Huge for the time. It was the same engine found in the larger Roadmaster, but dropped into the shorter, lighter special body. That combo gave the Century strong acceleration and a top speed approaching 110 miles per hour, numbers more in line with sports cars than mid-range American cruisers. The look, totally respectable. Wide white walls, sweeping lines, chrome by the yard, nothing wild. But the magic of the Skylark wasn't just in its power-to-weight ratio. That nailhead V8 earned its name from its unusually small valves and vertical orientation, which gave it a narrow profile and allowed for better torque at low RPMs. In real-world terms, it launched hard and didn't let up. The Dynaflow automatic transmission it came with wasn't a performance gearbox by any means, but it was smooth and strong, and when paired with that engine, it created a luxury car that could hustle. Buick didn't sell the Skylark as a performance car, but police departments took notice, using it as an interceptor thanks to its surprising speed. Highway patrol units across the country adopted it for high-speed chases, making it one of the earliest examples of law enforcement leveraging an undercover sleeper for street duty. Meanwhile, hot rodders started catching on too. The Century's engine was a popular choice at the drag strip, and many found their way into custom builds and early race cars. Regular buyers just thought they were getting a stylish, mid-level Buick. What they got was one of the fastest American cars of the early 1950s. It was stealthy, capable, and smooth. Everything a sleeper should be. The Skylark was classy and quick. No stripes, no badges, no gimmicks. Just old-school torque, a quick revving V8, and an attitude that said, "Try me." But while the Buick Century played the speed game with class, the next car went full undercover, looking like a company fleet car, but built to chase down just about anything. Number 7, 1957, Ford Custom 300 312 Police Interceptor. To most people in 1957, the Ford Custom 300 was about as plain as it got. Fleet car, taxi, stripped-down sedan. But Ford quietly offered an option that turned this budget-friendly commuter into a full-blown pursuit vehicle. Enter the 312 cubic inch Y-block Police Interceptor V8, good for up to 300 horsepower when properly equipped. Add a 4-barrel carburetor, dual exhaust, and heavy-duty cooling, and you had a legitimate sleeper on your hands. While most buyers never touched the Interceptor package, savvy police departments and hot rodders in the know sure did. The custom 300's lightweight body meant it could take full advantage of the V8 grunt, hitting 60 in under 9 seconds. A serious number for the time. The best part? It looked like any other basic Ford on the road. No chrome fins, no aggressive stance. Just a simple sedan with a whole lot of attitude hidden underneath. It was perfect for catching speeders or becoming one. What made the Police Interceptor package special was how it repurposed Ford's racing experience for real-world enforcement. The engine had beefed-up internals, better ignition, improved lubrication, and was often paired with a heavy-duty 3-speed manual or Ford-O-Matic automatic. And for police use, it wasn't uncommon to see upgraded suspension, brakes, and even calibrated speedometers that could track fleeing vehicles at 120+ miles per hour. That meant these cars were not just fast, they were engineered for high-speed endurance. Civilian buyers could technically order the same setup, though very few did. Most people saw the Custom 300 as a bargain car, not a barnstormer. But for those who ticked the right boxes, they ended up with one of the most underrated street sleepers of the 50s. It was the kind of car that could pull double duty, drop the kids off at school, then take down a Corvette at the next light. Today, these Interceptor spec Fords are rare survivors, but back in the day, they were the definition of stealth. No one suspected them until it was too late. And if you thought a fleet sedan was sneaky, just wait. The next car is a NASCAR champ that hid its power behind smooth lines and humble looks. Number 6, 1954, Hudson Hornet Special. In the early 1950s, the Hudson Hornet made its name on the NASCAR circuit, but by 1954, the special trim quietly pushed that performance even further. And unless you knew what to look for, you'd never suspect what this smooth cruiser could really do. The Hornet Special came equipped with Hudson's famous 308 cubic inch inline 6. Already a powerhouse. But in this version, it was tuned with twin-H power carburetors and optional high-compression upgrades. The result? Around 170 to 210 horsepower, which was monstrous for a flathead 6. Combine that with Hudson's unique step-down chassis design, giving the car a lower center of gravity and tighter handling, and you had a machine built to dominate both the track and the streets. Visually, the Special was as low-key as they come. It looked more like a Sunday driver than a speed freak. Smooth curves, modest trim, a plush ride. But under that calm exterior was a NASCAR-proven platform, capable of running with V8-powered competition. And thanks to its balance and torque-rich engine, it held its own well into the V8 era. The Hornet Special wasn't built to show off. It was built to win. And when it did, it's a sleeper in every sense of the word, hiding hard-earned racing credibility in a gentleman's body. The Hornet had history on its side. But next up, Dodge took that same quiet power approach and cranked it up with a factory-built, full-size sleeper that packed a serious punch. All right, folks, we're getting into the heavy hitters now. If you've made it this far, you're clearly all about the hidden gems. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've still got some monsters waiting to be uncovered. Number 5. 1958 Dodge D500, 1958 Dodge Coronet or Custom Royal looked like every other late 50s land yacht. It had long body, tall fins, and could chrome for days. But if you selected the D500 option, that big cruiser turned into a legitimate street fighter. The D500 package added a 361 cubic inch V8 with dual 4-barrel carburetors, producing up to 320 horsepower. That was no small number in 1958, especially when most people expected nothing but soft cruising and heavy steering. And because the D500 trim didn't change much visually, it remained the definition of stealth. No bold graphics, no exaggerated styling cues, just another fin Dodge until you floored it. Matched with a TorqueFlite automatic or optional 3-speed manual, the D500 could hit 60 in under 9 seconds and had more than enough grunt to surprise much sportier looking cars. It was big, brash, and way faster than it looked. Inside, it stayed true to its full-size roots, roomy, smooth, and well-appointed. But that engine didn't care about comfort. It wanted speed. The D500 wasn't just a high-performance trim, it was Dodge's answer to NASCAR dominance. That same drivetrain was used in competition, and the street version benefited from race-bred engineering. Some variants, like the D500-1, even pushed power closer to 340 horsepower thanks to high-lift cams and improved intake manifolds. Dodge didn't promote these aggressively. They let the cars do the talking on the track and the street. Buyers could equip their D500s with heavy-duty brakes, upgraded suspension, and performance rear axle ratios, making them more than just fast in a straight line. And since it was available on several body styles, including sedans and convertibles, you could customize your sleeper to taste. The D500 didn't just add horsepower, it added identity. Dodge quietly handed performance to everyday drivers, and those who picked the right options ended up with a true 50s sleeper, a chromed-out family car that could embarrass the competition. Yes, please. But if the D500 was all about hidden horsepower, the next car was something different. A two-tone coupe with fins, class, and a Hemi lurking underneath. Number 4. 1957 DeSoto Adventurer. The DeSoto Adventurer was marketed as a top-tier personal luxury coupe decked out with upscale features and two-tone paint. But what most people missed? It came standard with one of the most potent engines Chrysler had to offer. This beauty packed a 345 cubic inch dual-quad Hemi V8, delivering a thundering 345 horsepower, exactly 1 horsepower per cubic inch. That was rare air in 1957. And while DeSoto leaned into flash with gold trim, anodized accents, and upscale interior appointments, the Adventurer never quite wore its power on its sleeve. It looked high class, not high speed, but mashed the throttle, and that Hemi came to life with brutal force. It was paired with Chrysler's Torque Flight automatic and had the kind of straight-line power that could hang with Corvette and Thunderbird without looking like it wanted to. Underneath the finned body and gold grille was a sleeper that lived in plain sight, disguised as an executive tour. Only around 1,950 Adventurers were built in '57, making them extremely rare today. Most people just remember the styling, but the real story? This DeSoto could fly. A luxury coupe with 300-plus horsepower in the '50s was borderline insane. And that's exactly what made it special. The Adventurer blended flash with fury. The next car, however, ditched the glitz and brought pure Packard power to the streets in the most unexpected way. Number 3. 1956 Studebaker Golden Hawk. Studebaker wasn't known for building fast cars in the '50s, but for one brief moment, they dropped the hammer, and the result was a luxury coupe that could embarrass early Corvettes. The 1956 Golden Hawk took Studebaker's slick hardtop design and shoved in a Packard 352 cubic inch V8, the same engine found in the top-tier Packard Caribbean. That motor made a stout 275 horsepower and over 380 pound-feet of torque, serious numbers for 1956. And since the Golden Hawk weighed just over 3,300 pounds, it had one of the best power-to-weight ratios of any American car that year. To the casual eye, it looked upscale and elegant. Two-tone paint, tail fins, a wide open grille. But under all that chrome was a legitimate street contender. 0 to 60 came in under 9 seconds, faster than a Thunderbird or base Corvette, and top speed pushed past 120 miles per hour. Inside, it had a full set of gauges, comfy seating, and optional overdrive. But no one suspected what it could really do unless they lined up against it. The Golden Hawk didn't last long, and Studebaker's decline meant it never got the recognition it deserved. But in its prime, it was a straight-line rocket disguised as a weekend cruiser. A forgotten luxury coupe with Packard muscle. That's sleeper material through and through. This sleeper had class, speed, and surprise power. But if you thought that was slick, the next one looked like a police transport and hit like a highway missile. Number 2, 1955. Chrysler 300. You've probably heard of the Chrysler 300 today as a luxury sedan, but in 1955, it was something entirely different. This was the very first letter car, the Chrysler C300, and it was built to dominate NASCAR and humiliate everything on the street. Under the hood sat a 331 cubic inch firepower Hemi V8 with solid lifters, dual 4-barrel carburetors, and a performance cam. It produced 300 horsepower, hence the name, which made it the most powerful full-size American production car of the year. And remember, this was 1955. That number was unheard of in a car that looked more executive than explosive. The C300 didn't come with stripes or spoilers. It was a pillarless, hardtop coupe, dressed in clean lines and modest chrome. Inside, it was upscale, but purposeful. Leather bucket seats, full gauges, and no frills. It was meant for serious drivers, and it delivered. With a PowerFlight transmission and firm suspension, it could hit 60 miles per hour in just over 8 seconds and run the quarter mile in the high 15s, matching or beating the early Corvette. This was Chrysler's first performance flagship, and while later letter series cars would grow more luxurious, the original C300 was raw and ready. It won NASCAR's Grand National Championship in 1955 and proved that luxury and power could coexist. A full-size Hemi coupe that led on the track track and flew under the radar on the street? That's the kind of duality only a real sleeper can pull off. The 300 had racing blood and boardroom looks, but the final car on this list took things even further. Pontiac wrapped it in elegance, gave it monster torque, and sent it into legend without most people even knowing it existed. Number 1, 1957 Rambler Rebel. Rambler Rebel AMC wasn't exactly known for wild performance cars in the 50s, but in 1957, they shocked everyone by creating one of the earliest and most underrated muscle cars ever, the Rambler Rebel. This thing was lightning in a family sedan. AMC took their lightweight Rambler body, normally reserved for practical commuters, and stuffed in a 327 cubic inch V8 borrowed from Nash. That engine made 255 horsepower and over 345 pound-feet of torque. With a 4-barrel carburetor and aluminum intake, the Rebel weighed in at just over 3,300 pounds. That gave it serious muscle for the time. 0 to 60 came in under 7.5 seconds, making it one of the quickest American sedans of the 50s. And yet, it looked completely ordinary. No scoops, no flares, just a clean, conservative 4-door that looked like something your high school principal might drive. But anyone who tried to pass it learned fast. That badge said Rambler, but the performance said something else entirely. AMC didn't have the marketing firepower of the Big Three, and the Rebel only lasted 1 year in its original form, but it left a lasting mark. It proved that you didn't need flash to go fast. You just needed the right engine, the right weight, and the right attitude. The 1957 Rambler Rebel wasn't just ahead of its time, it helped define the sleeper formula decades before the term became popular. It was quiet, it was quick, and it was everything a sleeper should be. Now, before we wrap this up, there's one last sleeper I just have to mention. This thing has more torque than a Corvette, but looked like something your grandpa would drive to the grocery store. It's the ultimate undercover muscle car, and almost nobody remembers it. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one. Bonus: 1959 Rambler American with 327 V8 dealer swap or AMC mod. At first glance, the 1959 Rambler American looked like a practical economy car. It was compact, conservative, and built to be affordable, something your grandpa might drive to the post office and back. But in the hands of the right dealer or the right hot rodder, it turned into an absolute menace. AMC didn't officially offer a factory V8 in the 59 American, but performance-minded dealers and enthusiasts found a way around that. They swapped in AMC's 327 cubic inch V8, a blocky, torque-heavy motor that made between 255 and 270 horsepower, depending on the setup. Now drop that into a car that weighed just over 2,600 pounds, and you've got a recipe for chaos. The result? A tiny, under-the-radar coupe that could keep up with, or even beat, full-size muscle machines. It didn't have badges, it didn't have bragging rights, but it had big power in a small shell, and that's what made it dangerous. Most people never knew this combo existed. It wasn't advertised. It wasn't mass-produced. It was a backroom secret, often built for drag strips or underground match racing. Today, finding one is nearly impossible, but legends of V8-swapped Ramblers still float around gearhead circles. The 1959 Rambler American with a 327 V8 was the ultimate cheat code. A grandma car on the outside, a street brawler underneath. It's the kind of sleeper you'd never see coming, and exactly the kind of forgotten monster that earned its place on this list. The 50s weren't just about chrome and cruisers. They hid some serious muscle beneath the surface. These early sleepers set the stage for decades of stealthy speed. Think the 50s were tame? Think again. Want to see how things evolved? Our next video dives into the wildest sleepers of the 60s and 70s. You won't want to miss it. Like, subscribe, and keep chasing those hidden legends. See you there.